for the most part, everybody was making some post about what was happening. But at a certain point, some people, it seemed like they were using it to get clicks and they were using it to get views. What is up, nerds? It's me, your buddy, your pal, HeyArcher. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, of course, like, comment, subscribe, and if you're listening to the audio version of this, again, I thank you for being here. Leave a thumbs up if you are so inclined to do so. I don't know why you leave a thumbs down. I'm pretty sure that we hang out on a weekly basis. It's you and me, just listening. Anyway, I'm back. I'm back on the YouTube. I'm back on your favorite podcast platform, wherever you're listening to this. The HeyArcher merch, like the HeyArcher Dreamer shirt, the HeyArcher mug, all available on HeyArcher.com. I cannot believe how well that has done on its own, and I thank all of you for that. You know, launching the merch, it was one of those things where, like I said numerous times, you know, you kind of just got to go for it and just do your thing. And I did it, and all of you supported me in doing so, and you backed the whole idea of doing it, and I'm forever grateful for you all for pushing me along the way that you have. This is episode 157 of HeyArcher, and this week we will have Stargirl reviews because I'm 2 episodes behind on the reviews on that. You'll have HeyArcher live on Thursday. Time is to be determined. And we'll kind of go from there and see what happens. So we'll just dive right into it. And it was an interesting week. Now, last Friday, I believe it was on Friday, when you had the incident involving Mr. George Floyd out in Minnesota. Let me make sure. I think that was last Friday. It was like 2 days, the 25th, right? So that was on a Monday. All right. So that happened on a Monday, and then things got crazy out in Minnesota that week, and then it was Sunday when I was going to start kind of filming HeyArcher, that the protesting and the rioting left Minnesota and started going kind of state to state with various things happening. And then seeing the temporary injustice happening, you know, of the cops at the time not being indicted, seeing people out there protesting, seeing people attack police and the police attacking them back. It got heavy. Sunday night, before I started filming this show, it got real heavy. And I decided I wasn't going to film on Sunday because I was watching TV and I was watching the news, and it was just something out of a movie. It did not seem real at all. And I was like, you know, I'm just going to, at that point, we're talking Sunday at like 9-ish or so, 8 or 9. That's usually when I film. And I decided, all right, I'm going to hold off till tomorrow as I watch things develop. And things went left so fast, so fast. And it seemed like all of the protesting for good was getting morphed into the rioting. Like the rioting kind of started to take over the good intentioned protesting that was happening. So it got really Sunday into Monday, it got real heavy. And I couldn't bring myself to make content that wasn't your normal content here on the channel. So since then, the rioting has decreased a lot. Since then, the officers have been arrested and convicted. And since then, the Black Lives Movement has come into the spotlight and to the forefront of everything. And it's wild. It's just 1 week's time, like everything just, it's been 2 weeks, but that weekend, like from that weekend till now, in 1 week's time, it's like the world itself has changed. It's morphed into something else. And it's both exciting and it's scary all at the same time. So in today's episode, I kind of wanted to just give my thoughts on what it's like from my perspective. And maybe some of you who relate, I'd love for you to leave comments, hit me up on social media, HeyArcher on everything. And, kind of give me your thoughts on how you feel about all this, because it was a lot for a lot of people last week. And there were people who felt guilty about how they've been in life. There are people who were like, this is dumb. There are people who are like, this is the most important thing since civil rights. But most importantly, you had a lot of people who were just noticing how either corporations or friends or family were not taking this as a serious matter. And that you have some people who you thought one way, and then all of a sudden things are a little bit different. I can't tell if I'm into focus or not. I think that's better. Ever since the Converse video, which you guys loved, ever since the Converse video, I'm paranoid about it being in focus or not. I have to use manual focus when I'm shooting the videos. But it got really heavy. People were turning on each other, turning on friends, turning on family. And it was just wild. So I guess I wanted to give my thoughts on everything that was happening as a black man in America. And one of the ongoing things in the Hispanic community is, you say you're not black, you're Dominican, or you're not black, you're Puerto Rican, or whatever. End of the day, you get pulled over, You're the same person. Doesn't matter. So we are all looped in the same party. We're all going to the same party. So something that was taught to me growing up is, and that's one of the beauties I love about the way I was raised and the beauty of New York City was, it was a long time before I actually understood what racism was. And a lot of people in my life, in past relationships, in careers, have always found that to be very puzzling. They understood it, but my way of thinking to them was always very puzzling. And I'll never regret that. I'll never regret my viewpoint. Because growing up, you had friends in New York, in the Bronx, especially where I had friends of all nationalities. I had friends of all colors. I had friends of all religions. I had friends that were out of the closet. I had friends that were transitioning. All of this was happening, and growing up, you just were people. It didn't matter. You looked at each other as a person. There was never you're different because of who you are or where you're from. You may have had jokes on occasion, but it was always a two-way street. And those of you from New York listening who grew up in New York, not that you've been there for 10 years, but those of you who grew up in New York, actually going to school and whatnot, you can probably sign off on that. You always had jokes. The Asian kids made fun of the Hispanic kids. The Hispanic kids made fun of the black kids. The white kids got made fun of by everybody, but then they always gave it back. That was just the culture. And we always had sports and hip hop and rock music to kind of bring us all together. So it wasn't until I was maybe 20. Let me see. I left community college. So 20 to 21 was when I actually started to meet people that I was like, oh, you actually, this isn't out of a movie, a joke. You actually legit don't like somebody because of how they look, or you don't like somebody for where they're from. That's real. There's no humor in this. And it was always super bizarre to me. But something that I had been taught growing up, especially growing up in a religious household, was, the love your neighbor as yourself concept. And it's funny because yesterday, Saturday, like I had like a weird moment, like Saturday night. It was just an odd, like every so often you kind of, you go, your emotions go through ebb and flows. And, you know, I was in a ditch. I was in a lull, and randomly, Grandma Goody, who is part of the income stream, who you should check out. She does all like teaching Bible verses and stuff to kids. She messaged me and was like, "Hey, can you watch this video for me and just let me know like if it makes sense?" Because it's, you know, race relations now is a very touchy subject, and that's what she wants to talk about. And she wanted to teach kids like, what does this mean? Because essentially she could be talking to kids like me as a kid, where I'd watch it on TV and I'm like, I know what you're saying, but it doesn't make sense to me because nobody's racist. So she made a video kind of talking about that. And it was so bizarre because it hit me in a weird way, in a good way, and got me out of my funk. And it was for things that weren't even related to all of this. It was outside things that were bothering me, and it just kind of like brought me up. So I thank her for that. But growing up in the religious household, it was, you know, treat your neighbor as yourself. And sorry, I lost my chain of thought for a second, but the reason it came up was she was talking about the Good Samaritan thing. And so even in college, when I would come across people who were like, you know, genuinely racist or whatever phobic towards people, it was like, all right, well, that's you. I'm going to still treat you like a person. Like, even if you don't treat me as a person, like whatever, it is what it is. And then you fast forward as I go through life, and now I'm starting to see it. And now I'm starting to see the, you know, you have to act a certain way so you don't get judged. I have to talk a certain way so I don't get judged. And if people do show ill will towards me, I smile, I accept them for their ignorance, and I move on. And it's always bothered people that I view it that way. Always has. And what I've learned these last 2 weeks is that that's not okay in a way. It's not okay that if somebody, like I remember one day, like I'm talking to this guy, like just normal, I'm not doing anything. And at the end of the day, he's like, you know, all right, brother, like whatever. And like went out for the fist pump, and I went for the handshake, and he just insisted on the fist pump. Or when people are like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, the Bronx. And they're like, oh, wow, you talk so well for somebody from the Bronx. And I just kind of like let it slide. I'm just like, yeah, you know, those things are not okay. And I think that really came to light when I was listening to a panel of people like myself, young professionals, in the sales world, in the customer service world. And they were like, it sucks that like you have to, you know, when you walk through a neighborhood, when I walk through my own neighborhood, I don't wear a hood just because. Or when I talk to somebody, you know, I have to understand that they may say things that are inappropriate, and I just have to brush it off. And what all of this has shown is that while I may have been setting a good example for the people, like, you know, no, I'm just a person like you are. It's also not okay that became normalized to me. It's taken me 35 years to get that. And that's what I think I love about this whole movement, this whole push, is that those kinds of things don't have to be normal. You don't have to accept that as reality. And it makes me excited to see where all this is going. It makes me excited to see that it's almost becoming cool to even just hashtag Black Lives Matter. Like where before it was like taboo-ish because there were some things not so good associated with it. But everybody's on board now because everybody, when they saw the way that George passed away, a lot of people were like, hey, that, you know, taking race out of it, that could have been my kid. That could have been my dad. That could have been my mom. That could have been somebody. And when you do factor the race part in, it's like, hey, that could have been my friend who they did that to. And that's not okay at all. So it's people have banded together in a way I've never seen before. And the fact that it's even going state to state, country to country now, it's amazing. It's wild. And I don't know. It's a very, as the person that they're essentially protesting for, as somebody who has been, I've talked about it before, I've been stopped 3 times. Twice went to court for like reasons you wouldn't believe. One of them, I was baited into doing something illegal, and even the judge was like, wow, they really wrote you up for this, and they lied on whatever. But essentially seeing people on TV like kind of protesting for me and for you, if you fall into those categories, it's a weird feeling. It's a very weird feeling. And I just get excited about the future. And yeah, hopefully our kids and our kids live in the world of Star Trek where there is no such thing as race relations, because everybody treats each other like a person. Nobody treats each other any differently. And even sex to sex, where nobody's like, oh, I'm going to treat this woman differently. I'm going to treat this non-binary person differently. That's what I loved about Star Trek, and Gene Roddenberry's vision was he saw a future where nobody was treated any differently for any way, shape, or form outside of you doing things to harm the next person. That's the only way you got treated differently. That aside, you just did you. And I'm hopeful for that. I'm hopeful for that kind of future. As far as the nerd world goes, though, kind of bring that in, that's where it's going to become very interesting, because, I made that video a couple weeks ago about having representation done in a very tasteful way. And I will hold true to that. I've started to see that different YouTube channels that had talked about this subject, their true colors have come out where they just complain about everything. And I didn't notice it because I thought they were kind of defending people like myself or women or mixed race people or whatever. It turns out they just complain to complain. But I'm still going to hold firm on, I don't, just because now we want everybody represented, it doesn't mean that I now want you to give me a race swap character. I want you to make my own character. I like, the Green Lantern, what they did with Green Lantern in DC, I always thought that was the gold standard, because you didn't change who Hal Jordan was. You just had another Green Lantern, because you had the Green Lantern Corps, which consists of a lot of different people. So I like that. The way they did Miles Morales was really cool. I like the way they did that. But I just don't want things to ever be like right on the tongue. Or was it on the cheek? On the tongue? I think it's on the cheek. Or is it tongue in cheek? I don't know. Where, you're watching a character named Snowflake and like that kind of stuff. That's too much. But yeah, give us our own characters, own power sets, and just develop them. You don't have to give us any kind of hand-me-down characters. The Sam Wilson one, I'm still indifferent towards. I've never liked the Sam Wilson as Captain America storyline. No, let me backtrack. I've never liked the idea of him being Captain America, because I didn't like Sam Wilson really. I did like the idea of the story where he was dealing with people being like, you're not Captain America, you're just a black guy being Captain America. Like, I liked that. The fact that they were gutsy enough to write that kind of story, I thought was very, very good. But for me, Captain America is just always Steve Rogers. Like, that's just going to be, it is what it is. So he's one that I'm on the fence with. But as long as they're not, all of a sudden Peter Parker is, a girl, or Thor is a black guy, like, don't do that. Just make us a new character. That is the girl. That is the guy. That, do that. Because to me, that's always more genuine. It doesn't, when you do it that way, it doesn't come across as a publicity stunt. If DC, Marvel, and if you are watching this video. But yeah, I'm excited for all this. I'm excited for all the representation that will be happening. I'm excited for the movement. And I think that I don't even know how 2020 ends. 2020 has just been like out of the movie. Yeah, and as the joke goes online, Kobe Bryant died, and all of a sudden it was like the world was ending. You had COVID. You had this with the riots. You had the killer hornets, was it? That were like 3 inches big or 2 inches big or whatever. There's all sorts of craziness going on at one time. And it was a lot to handle. And it is a lot to handle. But you know what? We'll get through it together. And that's why I like this community. That's why I like us doing this together. And that's why I also, to touch on something I discussed yesterday, that's also why I did not make any videos last week about the subject. Because all of you who watch this channel know that I make this content for you. And by making it for you, it helps me. Like, I also make it for myself. And I don't like, what I didn't like last week was everybody, I'll say everybody, for the most part, everybody was making some posts about what was happening. But at a certain point, some people, it seemed like they were using it to get clicks and they were using it to get views. And I didn't want any video I made about this topic to come across that way. So that's why I said I'm going to take the week off, and I'll do this after that initial wave has gone through. And people are still making videos on it, which is great, showing that it's not just, they're not doing it as a hashtag. But I wanted to wait it out and then give you the video. That way it kind of stands on its own. We get back to normal on the channel, but I get my thoughts out in a way that doesn't seem like I'm just kind of, coattailing the movement. So I appreciate your patience for that. But it was still crazy to see that even without content, all of you are still watching. And a lot of you who are new to the channel subscribed on YouTube and on podcast platforms. So it was crazy to see that still happened without the plugs every day. You guys are still buying merch without me plugging it. So it's just wild that we've all created this machine or this plant, as I said yesterday, this plant that's growing, that even if it misses a week of water, it's still kind of going. So 250 is right around the corner at this point, and then we're on to 500. I mean, 500 is the next big milestone, but we'll celebrate all the other milestones together, because that's, like I said, this channel's yours just as much as it is mine. But short episode this week. What are we on? 257, I said? I don't even remember. My brain's all fried. 157. 257. 157. Like I said, HeyArcher Live is going to be coming out this week. Stargirl reviews are coming out this week. The Converse video, I do want to reshoot some of that because of that blurry thing with the shoes. So if you do want better pictures of the shoes, HeyArcher.com, you can go and there'll be pictures there of the shoes and not blurry. And I'll see if I'm going to either reshoot those scenes and re-upload, or if there's a way I can just add to the YouTube video. I'm not sure. I've not tried it before, but we'll see how that goes. And yeah, that's this week's episode. Short one. Thank you all for being here. It means the world to me, and this movement means the world to me, because the world's changing in a good way, and I'm excited for the future. And I know the future, it's going to get turbulent. It is going to get turbulent. For a lot of you nerds, I mean, you know it. Like you've been ridiculed left, right, and center because you don't fit any stereotype. You just, you're just that Hispanic kid. You're just that girl. You're just that black kid. You're, the white nerdy kid who just likes Naruto, or you just like reading your comics. And people are like, that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do this. It's going to get turbulent for you too. But we'll get through it together. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, HeyArcher on social media, HeyArcher1@gmail.com. And I'll be there. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. HeyArcher.com for all your HeyArcher merch and all the links to the videos. And of course, subscribe, leave a thumbs up, share this with a friend. And most importantly, I'll talk to all you nerds in the next video.